I don't turn up.
Nino, how are you?
I am doing all right.
Good. Glad to hear.
You want me to come down to Mission Row?
It's more or less a fairly short one. You can if you have anything you want to cover, but I see you're running for
yes,
fourth term.
Oh, I got a book for you actually.
All right.
Yeah. Oh fuck! I should have handed these out. I'll do it tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah. But
I'll meet you out front.
Yep. See you in a sec.
All right. All right. Bye bye.
All right.
There.
How you doing?
So I'm assuming things didn't work out with
No.
Grayson. No.
Oh no, they're working out.
They are working out.
Yeah. Oh, you mean as him running? There's the Saturday meeting with the justices didn't go well. And
the one with the governor.
That is correct.
Okay.
So there's been a lot of conversation about how to ensure democracy and our system survives, and I think you'll see in the next coming weeks, some of which is noted in this book as to the direction we are going, and I think the coalition's pretty strong. I mean, I don't know. Marshals, DOC, judges, clerks, you name it, are all kind of backing this, and so at some level, I feel like we're on the right track. And I know this sounds rather vague, but
I've read through your website already and seen everything you put forth. So
yeah,
I like the direction you're aiming towards it, and
yeah,
it looks good.
Mm-hmm. So it's gonna be yeah.
I don't think there's a whole lot of people around here that can keep up with the things that the way you do. So I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah,
because we're definitely filling it with the DOJ now with this overturned search warrant.
It's so rough.
And this I'm not sure what you're or if you're aware of the overturned search warrant.
I am. Yep, I read.
Okay.
Bailey sent me a copy of the letter.
Good.
I also read the warrant on the docket. Mickey, thank you for the 5 months.
What's your take on that warrant?
As a judge, I would not have signed it. So it's multifaceted. I speaking to Maxwell about this, and it's a nuanced issue. So my full take is the warrant isn't good because of the last sentence. I actually agree with the opinion of the judges that overturned it, but I disagree that it should have been overturned. So firstly, a warrant is effectively an affidavit, and it's similar to an affidavit, not is effectively. And so while the evidence that is in there can result with the articulation of probable cause for a raid, in other words, a pattern of possessing class 2s, the problem with the last sentence is that each and every, and this is, I think, a nuanced bit that a lot of law enforcement are not, let's just say, are not aware of, right? Judges included, is that probable cause and reasonable suspicion is something that each and every officer need to do, like, on an individual level. So, in other words, another individual cannot ascertain probable cause through somebody else. Point being that Opal found these things. And so it is up to her, based on her training, officer training, her experience, etc., to say that it is more than probable that more guns exist in the property. So when Faulkner signed that warrant, he wasn't, that the judgment he made was based on the evidence in here. I believe that there was probable cause myself as Faulkner, but the officer Opal didn't articulate that. She articulated in her final sentence that there was reasonable suspicion. And so I think the first step is that the quality of warrants and the way that you write them does need to go up. So that, I think that is true. Maxwell did mention that there could be like a, English isn't the first language thing. I don't think that's I don't think that's a good answer to use.
No, I don't think so either.
Because the last sentence isn't really an English thing. It's more of every officer should be using that sort of verbiage. That if you, as an officer, based on everything in there, are displaying that, yes, I believe that is more than probable or more than probable that such and such thing happened. That's your final like affidavit at the end of it. Because imagine this was something a little bit more, like a little bit more like nuanced, right? We can't assume that the judges know everything and what evidence can lead up to what evidence can lead to a certain conclusion. Law enforcement does, right?
I don't disagree with anything you just said, frankly.
But
where
the overturning,
I'm having a problem is the overturning and why it was being overturned, and then why was the sign in the first place.
That I agree with.
And look, I'm putting a lot of blame on DOJ. We can improve as PD. We can improve with these search warrants, and we should improve. I want something from the DOJ saying they're going to improve. I brought up bad search warrants that we written and they signed before, and said this needs to improve. I've taken it to them.
Yeah.
And said this is shit. Both
Mickey,
by us
thank you for the 5 months.
and by you,
Corinth
and
33.
we need to improve. Everyone needs to improve.
Agreed.
I've said that before. In this one, we've used. I believe it was brought up to me that the same verbiage has been used in many other search warrants.
Oof.
And then now, because it's being put under this microscope, it's being torn apart.
Yeah.
And even from a judge's own mouth, he said any search warrants gets put under this type of scrutiny, it's going to get torn apart.
So I apologize for hyper yapping on that first bit, but I agree. The second bit is the overturning. So the overturning of a warrant, Bailey's articulation of why it's wrong in his letter says it perfectly.
Absolutely.
Is that a warrant being overturned? Nothing wrong with that. However, there needs to be some sort of, unfortunately, the way that they analyzed this warrant was to say, Faulkner believes it's probable cause. Do we believe it's probable cause? That's not what an overturn should be about. An overturn should be about whether or not there is something heavily deficient legally in the warrant. Now, one could possibly say that, well, that final sentence, right, is counterintuitive. You know what? Actually, I'm going to say this. I think that their inherent ruling wasn't necessarily wrong. So I do think there is value in that. But I agree with you in saying that the variance of what is and is not probable cause is so high between the judiciary, it doesn't make any sense. The solution we're going to be putting forward, and it is on our agenda, is we're going to be rewriting the entire search and seizure legislation. The intention of it, because it's completely dog shit, it's like scribbled notes is what it looks like. And to be fair, it's a very early on piece of legislation, right? So shit was being thrown together. We are in this, and there are some aspects that we're still kind of figuring out, because when you read this is illegible. There's no sections, it's just random statements, is that we want to coalesce this into possibly even going and defining out what is reasonable suspicion, what is probable cause. We may even cite RS&PC based on, case law and advocate for the governor to allow it, as it would be external case law, but we already have case law, right?
Right.
Like Tennessee versus Gardner, not Tennessee versus Gardner, fucking Terry versus Ohio. We might allow, like, so Terry versus Ohio in case law in our legislation is very like simple, but Terry versus Ohio actually expands out RS and PC beyond just the Terry frisk.
Absolutely.
There's another case law which escapes me right now that also elaborates on it, and that one we don't have. The point being is that by establishing more of a clearer definition of what is RS, what is PC, there's also a beyond a reasonable doubt, and there's one more. Preponderance of evidence, which we don't use in our legal system, but I think would be valuable. Are you familiar with preponderance of evidence?
Briefly. It's been some time since I used that verbiage.
It's preponderance of evidence is mostly used in a civil case, where like it's
lesser than probable cause but greater than reasonable suspicion, right?
Kind of. It means that based on the evidence, it's more likely something happened. So it's kind of like probable cause, but it's more like you're not needing the articulation necessarily. So
those go very hand in hand. What are some situations where that'd be applied as opposed to probable cause?
Civil court.
Just where less burden of proof is required.
Think of it as like a different standard, right? So RS and PC and such are more like, and beyond a reasonable doubt are about like subjugating someone, or not subjugating, but like charging someone with a crime, sentencing them, those sort of things. Whereas preponderance of evidence is more of like more of a civil matter, is like, hey, given all these things, did someone screw someone financially, right? But whether or not we add it, that's another matter. Maybe it's something that's up for discussion. But the point there is that by sort of like aligning those meanings, because those are such basic building blocks, we can then on top of this build out we can then say, what is a search warrant? What does it allow? What is the legislated barrier for a phone subpoena? What is the barrier for a financial subpoena? What is the barrier for a raid warrant? And while this may seem too much, right? I would say it's not too much.
It's not. I want black and white.
Yes, I agree.
Was criteria met or not?
Yes, exactly that. Now, that doesn't mean that opinion goes off the table, right? But that opinion is going to be based on you know what I'm saying? Because it's more of, it's a difference between, are we standing in front of Mission Row PD, right? Versus are we standing on the emblem on Mission Row PD? Right now, the emblem still has a lot of space, but if we just say in front of Mission Row PD, that's just so open to interpretation, right?
Right.
Like, what is in front? Is it just this bit right here? Is it out? And that's kind of the way that I look at it, is that because terminology is all over the place, the variance is too grand.
I agree.
Yeah.
Very much so, actually.
Yeah.
I'm definitely a fan of black and white and none of this gray.
Yeah. Agreed.
Or at least less of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
so,
Sheriff, can I give you a call back here in just a moment, unless it's urgent? Okay. All right. Sounds good. All right.
Bye-bye. I think in the grand scheme of things, my term coming up is I want stability. I want democracy to work. I think I want the DOJ to be in a really good spot. That means lawyers. That means magistrate, judges, I don't want them fearing their job because they disagree with someone's opinion. You know what I mean?
Funny you bring that up.
Yeah.
I had quite a long conversation yesterday with Barrick. Go slightly off topic here. I spoke to him about the situation that transpired with the warrant being overturned. I asked it what the process was, in terms of the panel. Is it a vote, as to overturn it or to, uphold the search warrant? How's it work? There's nothing in writing. There's no process. There's no SOP standard. There's nothing. It's pretty much, we have a panel. That's as far as it's gone. Now, my understanding, and I need to preface this with, I haven't talked to Danielson. I've heard from another officer. Again, this is game of telephone here. On my list today to talk to him. But my understanding is both Barrick and Danielson ended up wanting to uphold that search warrant.
So my question say that again. I'm sorry. I had a moment.
All right. So my whole thing. Okay. So I spoke to Barrick there about that search warrant being overturned. I haven't spoken to Danielson myself, so I want to preface that with I can't speak for him or specifically about him, but I spoke to an officer who did speak to him. My understanding is both Barrick and Danielson both wanted to uphold the search warrant. Then my question is, did the justice just take it on himself without conferring with him, and then just decided to deny it?
I don't know. It depends.
There's no standard.
I'm actually a little surprised because I was under the impression that warrants, if there is based on the panel and including one justice, but that means if it was a 2-to-1 vote, but the 1-1, that so actually seems wrong.
Here's a question I asked him. I said, "Was there a vote?" He said, "No." He goes, "It's not a vote." I said, "What is it then? Why is there a panel if it's not a vote?" So this is where I'm a little confused. I have to talk to Dan. Like I said, I haven't personally spoke to Danielson. I don't know if there's some sort of telephone game going that he was in support of it, and then now I'm hearing he's not. I'll have to talk to Danielson today and get his point of view of it. But if that's the case, I asked him. I want something in writing, not necessarily in writing. How does the process work?
Didn't know.
The process works based on what is in legislation and only in legislation. So let's pop that open real quick.
What would that be under? Search warrants themselves?
Maybe. That's another thing we're going to be doing. We're going to be reducing like this 100 legislation down to 30.
Yeah, that look good. Might make it a little harder to make changes, right? But
no, it's going to be easier because it's going to, like just real quick before we go into the search warrant thing, take a look at capital punishment as an example. I want to format it a little bit better, or take a look at San Andreas voting regulation. Like, some of this is going to be reformatted to be even more easier to read. But notice how it's like, we want it where it's like San Andreas voting regulation, Article 1, Section A, Clause I, right? Or Clause 1, right? So it's easy to reference, easier to read. And so you can imagine a lot of these things being in bigger articles. And those articles are subjects in a category, right? So
I see. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I mean, search function ain't great, so combining them all together, fine. So I'm good for that. What would that be under exactly though?
Search warrant, search and seizure, maybe.
9 months ago, I doubt.
Oh, right here. Yeah. Should a search warrant and or the findings thereof be used in a criminal proceeding against an individual, it is within the right of the defense to contend the contents of the warrant. This must be done by entering a separate post on the docket indicating the intent to contest the search warrant. The contest shall be overseen by a panel of at least one justice and 2 other justices. There will be a scheduled hearing in which the defense will first present their argument as to why the search warrant should be overturned. and have a chance to rebut the defense's argument. Any evidence already introduced in the criminal matter related to the search warrant is able to be referenced, and vice versa. Any evidence introduced as part of the... Okay. One argument has to be made. The panel will deliberate and return with a one of two verdicts, with it being upheld or overturned. An upheld verdict means that the search warrant shall remain. An overturned verdict means... Okay. If it was a 2-to-1 vote, okay, FOIA the full results. Who is the justice?
McNee.
All right. Well, it's time to impeach McNee then.
Well, that's why I'm trying to figure out everything before I step into an impeachment or a ACRs. I need to talk to Danielson.
There is,
and make sure that his side is what I'm understanding.
If two judges said it should not be overturned and one justice said it should, then there's no way.
What's the point of a panel then, right?
It's not even what's the point of it. It like do we need to baby feed people like words? Look, the problem with the justices is I'm just gonna, this is gonna sound mean as shit, but I don't really give a fuck. There has been for years, I'd say before Crane and after Crane, but like after like Artson and all the old guard, great judges, to be honest, all of them, cool, Artson, etc. There was like a period of time where there was like a desire that everything can be interpreted. But then even during some of Crane era, there was some judges that wanted everything interpreted, where they kind of felt like that the court case was their moment, is the best way to put it. Not the prosecution, not the defense, but that judge's moment. And I remember having to hear some of the stupidest arguments about like how much fun they're gonna have, for lack of a better way of explaining it, and they wanted things to be just so open to interpretation they could just have odd mental masturbations over idiotic shit. Now, I'm gonna argue that we're falling back into that realm. What do I mean by this specifically? That for some reason, this mental masturbation and this idea of interpreting law has them interpreting very clearly written English sentences and grammatics into meaning. Somehow they're like gaslighting themselves into believing things should be read in an unorthodox way. You know what? You get what I'm saying? Because when it says this contest shall be overturned by a panel of at least one justice and two other justices, there should not need to be a clarifying set. This is assuming what you heard was correct, right? And I do recognize that it may not be.
Okay.
Is that this should not require it to be expanded to say, and there will be a vote, because the contest shall be overseen by a panel in and of itself infers that it's a 3-person vote. Both because there's 3 of them.
I guess it's
it's a panel.
That sounds black and white.
Yes, it's very black and white.
That sounds black and white to me. So, while I'm hoping I have the correct information, in a way I'm hoping I don't either.
Yeah, I hope so too.
I really don't know what way I'm leaning at this point. At this point I wouldn't be surprised.
No,
right?
I wouldn't either, because the amount of mental gymnastics on shit is been absurd. Like this would be incident like 10 at this point.
When I obviously we have a lot of conversations about DOJ. I've heard a lot of conversations. I try to make my own opinion. I try not to jump on bandwagons. I try not to just take everyone's word at face value, or as truth. I try to make my own opinion, and I'm very quickly finding that the opinion in which I'm being presented to the DOJ is very much true, and I want to I think it's important to give departments, government or not, chances to adjust what they're doing and fix and improve and show they're working towards improving themselves.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I haven't seen that yet. And it's been 2 months that I've been in office, and it's or as chief of police here, and it's not improved.
Anonymous, thank you for the thought.
So I guess I could say it's time to start putting on some punching gloves and going to bat. You know?
Yeah. My biggest difficulty,
myself,
Turner, is I just want healthy discourse, right? And it just feels like I don't know. Yeah. Anyways, I wish you the best of luck. Please do keep me informed what happens with this, because I will say this. I think McNee actually does mean well. It doesn't mean that this isn't cooked, and if something comes out of it, it should be for the goal of clarity and us fixing shit more than anything else. I do not hold the same sympathy for the other two justices.
Chad is cuteless cuties.
So, but Gooey, thank you for 17 months.
Well, yeah. I'll keep you in the loop. As of right now, I'm waiting for an official response. I've requested a written official response as to the letter that Bailey put out there. Because I want to know what they're going to do about it and what their take is, and I want to hold them to it.
Absolutely.
Whether they'll do it, that's a whole nother question.
Yep. 1000%.
But we'll see.
All right.
You take care, all right, Nino?
You as well. Vash, thank you for the 17 months.